Hola mis amigos, this is Stephanie Urbina Jones, and I'm really happy to see you here. If you're joining me, that must mean you must have read my chapter or many of the chapters of the powerful, poignant, right on time, Sacred Death book that I had the great honor of being a part of. I'm honored today to be sharing with you the words that came through me to share with anyone who is searching for comfort, inspiration, and a way to connect with the divine, with the ancestors, with those who have crossed over. It was in my great-grandmother's and grandmother's passing that I truly learned how to live. And her passing has guided my life for many years now. That's what this chapter 4, Midwifing Miracles and Messengers of Love, is all about. I wove in a song that I wrote by myself a long time ago. There's nothing more significant of a creature as a mariposa, as a butterfly, to teach us about this experience of rebirthing from death to life again. So I wove this song that I wrote into the chapter to help me find my way. So I'm going to sing a little bit to you in between parts of my chapter. This is chapter 4, Midwifing Miracles and Messengers of Love. I can't remember how many million tears I've cried, nights that I have stayed awake, asking God why this world is sometimes filled with so much pain and sorrow, wondering if the sun would ever shine on my tomorrow. Like a butterfly needs to find its way out of a cocoon. In this life we all have things we've gotta struggle through. From the darkness we are led to the light of truth, where sacred wounds are healed, and we are born from blue. I was born in a bicultural home in the heart of San Antonio, Texas. My first memories were ones of friends and family, backyard barbecues, tamales, country music, mariachis, and the safety of my abuelito's arms. He was my person. I was his patooties. I'd almost always be perched beside him on my rooster stool he bought me, watching Mexican wrestling or Sabado Gigante, while my abuelita, my grandmother, made pollo con arroz and my favorite red enchiladas. Each day, he would take my little hand and walk me down to the corner pharmacy for chocolate ice cream. And on special days, I'd cuddle up to him in his Pontiac and ride down to Ray's Drive-In, where he'd ordered chalupas, a pearl beer, and a Big Red for me. We'd sit there for hours, dropping quarters into the jukebox, listening to Hank Williams, Patsy Cline, Ray Price, and boleros from Mexico. He adored me like no one did or ever would. Where things were crazy in my young parents' home, they were joy-filled and calm at my abuelo's home at 115 North Cibolo. There, family and friends came and went, and the radio from the border blared, and there was always a pot of beans on the stove. I had no idea then that things were about to change. Soon, my grandpa went from 3-piece suits and shined-up shoes to striped pajamas and slippers. First, he lost his toe, then his foot, and then they amputated his leg up to his hip. All I knew was that I was so grateful to spend time with my grandpa. I don't remember the day he died, but I do know that my life went from technicolor to black and white overnight. Soon, I was standing in the doorway of a big room with a wooden box at the front. I had no idea what I was walking into. I was so happy to see my tias and my tios, family, neighbors, and loved ones. And at some point, I too made my way up to the box at the front of the room. I stood on the steps and I peeked in. There in front of me was my ghost white grandpa. I let out a curdling scream that came from deep inside of me, calling for him to come back. I wanted to climb in that box and go with him wherever he had gone. I loved him so much. He was my safe place, the one who got me and kept the family and my parents, who were now divorced, calm. I was inconsolable. At 4 years old, as they laid him in the grave, a part of me died and went with him. I was frozen in time, and it would take many, many years for the little girl to find her way back to life. Time marched on from my teens to my 20s, and I gratefully discovered music to keep me grounded and connected to life. I had a suitcase record player, and it reached into my closet where I could almost close the door of my little womb of a room. Crouched in my closet, I would play my album Tapestry. It was a gift from my dad, who I rarely got to see, and it meant the world to me. There, I'd escape into the arms of my favorite song, rocking myself to You've Got a Friend over and over again. After college, I followed my heart to Nashville, where I became a staff writer for Sony ATV Tree Music. It was an amazing way to tell my truth, purge my pain, and carve out my soul in song while trying to make sense of this desperate longing still living inside me. While I did not consciously understand the impact of my grandpa's passing back then, it haunted me every day. I had become a master at seeking relief in all sorts of ways from that old emotional pain and other trauma seared into my body. During this same time, I discovered and became obsessed with the book, The Wheel of Life, a memoir of living and dying by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I was particularly struck by her journey to the Maiden-Deck concentration camps in Poland after World War II and her recollection of visiting the children's barracks. There, she was surprised and amazed to find hundreds of butterflies carved into the walls with pebbles and their fingernails. She wondered why they were there and what they meant. Over years of working with terminally ill patients, she understood that these carvings were messengers from the children, knowing that soon they would die and be out of this hellish place. Soon they would leave their bodies like cocoons and emerge as butterflies. It was a message for generations to come, and one for me as well. The book gave me great hope and the beginning of an understanding that would someday transform my life and lead me to my life's work. Since my grandfather died, I too wanted to escape this life and find my way out of my cocoon. I kept on writing. Like a butterfly needs to find its way out of a cocoon. In this life we all have things we've gotta struggle through. From the darkness we are led to the light of truth, where sacred wounds are healed and we are born from the blue. It was no coincidence that within that same year, my dad would provide another cosmic breadcrumb on my life's journey. One day as we walked, he talked about his days in Vietnam as a foreign observer with the 101st Airborne. He knew any day could be his last. He carried a little picture of me as a prayer to keep him grounded and alive. He often said that the horrors of war made them all believers and that there were no atheists in foxholes. He said that in the jungle you become acutely aware with sharpened instincts to see into and beyond this world. He shared that often, just before a soldier died, he would see his spirit leave his body. It was almost as if the grace of God would take him before the pain of dying. He said that sometimes before a battle, he would see fields of spirits ascending from this world to the next. This conversation with my dad that summer rocked and scared me, but only because I knew it was true. Not too long down the road, I too would be ripening my tools and midwifing a miracle that would change the course of my life and bring me the peace I was longing for. I was 33, and another turn of the wheel was just around the corner. Like a mother gives birth to a baby boy or girl, like a father searching to find his place in this world, like a singer whose sorrow finally finds a song to sing, like a dying man who finally understands that his soul has wings, like a butterfly needs to find its way out of a cocoon. In this life we all have things we've gotta struggle through. From the darkness we are led to the light of truth, where sacred wounds are healed, and we are born from blue. Within a few months, I got a call from my grandma, Virginia. I picked up the phone, and the first thing out of her mouth were, "Mija, I'm dying." She'd been talking about it for years, but I knew at that moment that this was it. Some part of me I never knew before, locked and loaded with a presence I can still feel in my body today. I flew to be by her side. There I sat in holy communion between life and death with Senora Jones, my beloved, feisty, spicy, and sometimes mean little Mexican grandma. We laughed, cried, reminisced, and put many things to rest, including the outfit and the red lipstick she wanted to be buried in. Suddenly, her attention would be drawn somewhere above her, and she'd begin a full-blown conversation with my grandfather, her sister Armida, my great-grandfather Manuel, or her mother Sarita. On the other side, she was walking between the worlds. Days turned to weeks, and then in one transcendent moment, she took my hand, looked at and through me, and said, "Mija, you will be a mensajera. You will be a voice for our people, sharing our beautiful Mexican culture with the world." She giggled and said, "You will be making country music with chili peppers." It was obviously a transmission from heaven, but I was not ready for it. I rebutted, saying, "Grandma, I can't do it. I am too insecure, and I don't even speak Spanish." She looked at me and with calm resolve said, "Mija, you will." I can't remember what day it was because time stood still. All I know is that the doctor said I could go home because it would be a few days before she passed. I knew differently. I knew she was going to be passing within the next few hours. I called my dad and Tio Rudy, and we held a prayer vigil. The room was pregnant with peace and an indescribable, full, potent, condensed love. It was the most holy experience of my life, besides having my own daughter, Zeta. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I know that I knew when it was time. I called my dad and Theo, and we gathered around her. She was no longer conscious to talk, but she was still present in her body and at peace. Her skin was translucent and her breathing became labored. In and out, in and out. It really was like childbirth. I could feel her spirit as it began to make its way to the point of releasing and rebirthing. In and out, I said to my dad, "Here we go." She took one more deep breath, and I swear I saw her spirit fly. A faint white wisp out of the top of her head, and at the very same moment that she slipped out of her body and shed her skin, I felt this jubilation in my body and spirit as her soul was freed. It was so surreal to be so connected with her and feel so happy, almost giddy in that moment. I remember thinking, this is so strange. As I took my finger and poked her body, she was no longer there. It was a carcass. She was gone. In that moment, there were no tears, only holy awe. I was the witness to the sacred death and rebirth of my grandmother from this world to the next. While I was raised in Catholic and Methodist religions, I did not have an experience of God or something beyond me until this. I felt the great mystery and knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that there was a life beyond this one. It filled me with wonder and excitement to be alive. In the days and years to come, the cosmic breadcrumbs began to reveal a reverent understanding of the twists and turns that had led me here. But before then, the dam broke, and years of deep, unexpressed grief came in waves in those broken open moments. That little girl who was frozen in time a long time ago, slowly but surely found her way back. My grandmother's sacred passing helped me begin to honor and release the trauma I held in my body all those years before, and I came back to live with a fiery passion for life. I had dreams, seeds planted in my heart as a child, and with this thawing out of pain came the desire to live those dreams. From that day forward, I became as focused on living as I had been about dying. I began to dream and believe in miracles, empowered with the knowing that I was being guided. Redbirds, butterflies, or sage advice from the grocery store bagger dropped in out of nowhere to reveal my next right step every time. I soon found the courage and means to begin making records and stepping into and through my fear. One miracle after another unfolded since that time 20 years ago. And I am humbled to share that just as she had seen, I went on to record 9 albums, traveled the world as a mensajera, a messenger of love, celebrating our culture and song and making history with my country music with Chili Peppers. I went on to purge my pain and found ways to not only transcend it, but to turn it into my medicine. Becoming a Toltec transformational teacher, I now gratefully walk with others and hold sacred witness as they midwife the miracles in their own lives, turning their pain into purpose. At the core of every song, every show, every teaching, every moment is life and death, rebirth and love. From that day to now, I have been guided and supported and am blessed by this map of pain and transformation that has led me to share this message of hope all over the world. In all my travels, I carry and create little altars everywhere to work my prayers. I surrender to the great unknown and ask for wisdom and help. I place my faith and my heart on the altar, then meditate, pray, and pay attention, building the holy knowing and intuition that I first experienced when midwifing my grandmother so many moons ago. While I am human and will always deeply miss and mourn my loved ones, I am grateful to know that there is a divine force available just when I need it most. Call it God, call it guides, call it angels, whatever you call it, we are not alone. I hope you've enjoyed hearing and witnessing this many, many decades journey of faith and miracles and the messengers of love along the way. Because of my sacred experience with my grandfather and my grandmother, and now so many other people that I walk with in midwife, transformation, songs, experiences, I know that there is love available for us, guidance available. In my chapter, I offered each of you a gift of creating an altar that in your home, an altar in your hotel room, an altar in your car, an altar in your heart, someplace that you can put a picture or a little statue or a card or a painting or a penny or a butterfly's wings, anything that you can create, something around you to remind you that we are not alone. I create altars in my purse. I always carry a medicine bag, and in that medicine bag I always have sage and these sacred objects that I can carry with me in hotels all around the world. A little bitty candle that I can always light as if it was the light in my sacred heart. Almost a cosmic breadcrumb to the angels, to the ancestors, and to all of life that loves me. My name is Stephanie Urbina Jones. I've been called Shaman Heart. I'm honored to be an author in this book, Sacred Death. And I thank each of you for listening. And I look forward to seeing you at a concert or a coffee house or a festival or it's some journey down the road. Muchísimas gracias. And from the bottom of my heart, I say, adios, mis amigos.